This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with KRISTIAN Havard, guitarist and founder of the UK thrash metal act XENTRIX. If I knew absolutely nothing about XENTRIX, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I suppose we always said that we're a thrash metal band with like the emphasis on metal, you know, where we've got like a heavy metal background. So we grew up like, well, me in particular, grew up like in, you know, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. And I think you can definitely hear that sort of influences on our music. You know, we've got the harmony guitars and the, you know, we've got like a thrashier edge. So we you know, we like to go a bit faster than heavy metal bands. We like to play a little harder, you know, but essentially we've got that metal edge. So I would say we're thrash metal.
Absolutely, and I hear a lot of that on your latest album, Seven Words, which comes out on November 11th through Listenable Records. So far, what I've been reading, it's been getting a really good response. You must be pumped about that.
Yeah. People are liking it. I mean, it's a weird one because we want people to like it, but essentially we don't write music for people so that people like it. You know, we write it because we want to. It's almost like we write the music we write. If you like it, it's a bonus, really. You know. So, but yeah, it is nice, and it's nice that people, if they're pre-ordering it and things, you know, I always feel a bit guilty if they don't like it because you know money's tough with everyone at the minute. So you know, you got to like every penny, every pound, every dollar. You know, you got to think where it's going at the minute. So I like to think we don't shortchange people. So let's hopefully they'll like it. But seemingly they are at the minute, so that's good.
And much like the thrash metal genre, it's certainly a politically it addresses political situations and sort of things that are going on in the world and kind of looking at it through your lens. I know back in the day that was certainly a big thing with thrash metal, with the politically charged kind of government stuff in the lyrics. Today kind of could get you in trouble. What do you think of that?
I know what you're saying. It's kind of just the way we've always written, really. We write about things that, you know, I mean, that you need to have like a heavy lyric for a thrash song. I mean, I've only written one lyric on this, one song on this album. This is the first time that Jay actually was involved in the writing process, because on the last album he sang on, he came in at the point where it had already been written. It had already actually been recorded with our old singer, so he just went over the vocals. So he changed a few things here and there, but essentially it was already done. So this time it was like, you know, and he said, you know, I want to write words for this. I've got words for this. I've got words for that. And we're like, yeah, that's great, because I'm always happier if the guy who's singing writes the words, because he's the guy that's got to sort of put the emotion and get the message across, you know. So and it's one less thing for me to do, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, so you know, we always go with, you know, it needs to be like a heavy lyric with a heavy message. And you know, we kind of steered away from Satan in the past. You know, I mean, if it's your thing, it's your thing, whatever. But you know, we go down the sort of like, you know, that, like you say, the political route. I wouldn't say that any of us are particularly political, but you know, we kind of like see things and see documentaries and news items and things and comment what we think, you know. So
I thought one of the more brilliant songs on there was Everybody Loves You When You're Dead, because I've always thought that like the worst person could die and they'd be like, yeah, he was so great and he was turning his life around, and it's just something we don't really talk about as a society.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, that those I can't take credit for those. Those are Jay's lyrics, but that song in particular, because that's probably one of the it's kind of it stands out a little bit from the rest of the album, because it's like a slower one, and it's got like, you know, almost like a big rock chorus in a way. And when I wrote that, I was like, I don't know, because we had the music done before the lyrics, and everybody else in the band, we were demoing it and stuff, and everybody was like, yeah, no, it's a good song, it's good, it's gonna be good. And it was only when he actually put the vocals and the words on it that it was like, oh no, this is cool. Like with that tagline at the end, it was like, oh yeah, no, this is going to work. So, the lyrics actually really sort of, and the way he put them in, I think it helps that he plays guitar. He's a musician. He doesn't just sing, so he knows how things fit, and he'd be trying sort of different sort of rhythm parts to it. To the vocals. So yeah, so I'll give Jay the credit for that one, not me.
You got producer Andy Sneap to work on this record. He worked on your last record, obviously known for his work with Judas Priest and Accept and Saxon. What does Andy kind of bring to the table for you guys?
Well, we've known Andy since I've known him since '89. So because we did our first tour with his band, we supported his band Sabbath, and we did our first UK tour, and we just kept in contact, kept friends and stuff. And obviously, I've seen Andy's sort of like risen through the ranks, and but the thing about Andy is, he knows a lot about heavy metal. He's a big fan of the music, so he kind of, he's great with technology, and he's very good at sort of bringing along new technology. So as soon as something's coming out, he's the guy that's got it straight away. And if I see something online and I think, what about this, Andy? He said, oh yeah, they sent me that last week. He said it's rubbish. Don't bother with that. Or it's great. Buy one of them. And he's really good but it's not just the technology. It's his knowledge of the music. That's the real sort of secret with Andy. He just knows what things should sound like, what bands should sound like. I think that's what he did with Accept. He said to them, you should sound like your old records, but like in a new way. You shouldn't be trying to reinvent yourself. And so it's brilliant to have him on board. And like I say, he's a friend. So when we're doing these records, you just say to him, can we come down and he's like, yeah, I'll do it for you. He's great. But the Judas Priest was a problem actually, because we had the record finished, and he was gonna be mixing it for us, and he said I can do your record, like this was in December last year. He said I can do your record because I'm not doing Judas Priest anymore, and because they were going to try it as a 4-piece, if you remember. And then like 2 days later, he rang me up and said, no, I'm back in. It's like, you're gonna have to wait till April. so okay, never mind.
The new album 7 Words comes out in multi formats, including digital, streaming, CD. You got a vinyl. Is this XENTRIX first vinyl?
No. Our first album came out on vinyl. In fact, our first album, when it came out, we were, because it was like 1989, we were like, are they going to put it out on CD? We didn't know if it was going to come out on CD at the time, In fact, I don't know if it did straight away. I think it came out like later on, because CD wasn't as like big back then. So now I think everything's come out on vinyl. This is the first time though that we'll ever have a picture disc, which I'm quite excited about because I'm a bit of a nerd, like things like that. So it's like, oh wow, got a first ever picture disc. That'll be cool.
You got some pretty intricate artwork on the cover as well. Yeah. How did you find the artist that did it?
Again, that's through Andy, really. Dan Goldsworthy had done. He did Andy's band Hell. He did the first 2 albums, and he also did the Accept, the one with the bull on. And then I got in contact with him, and he did Bury the Pain for us, and he's done a couple of T-shirts and stuff, and he's just our go-to guy now because it just fits the type of music. It's a real sort of retro style. It's very Ed Repka, and he totally sort of says that's what this type of style I'm going for, the sort of 80s sort of thrash metal thing, So and it's great because we can just sort of give him like lyrics and ideas, and he comes up with these things like that. He came up with the cover of that, So it's got a few sort of ties in. It's the same guy that's on the last album, and it's the same guy from our second album, For Whose Advantage. You can just tell by the tie this time because he's got like a gas mask on, so there's like pretty much nothing else to recognize him through. But the tie, if you look at the tie, that's the same.
It's kind of important, I think, for British heavy metal to have sort of that recognized mascot on the covers. I mean, we've seen it thousands of times over the years.
Obviously, you got your Iron Maiden Eddie. That's the one, you know. Like Megadeth have the big rattle head. I mean, it's not really. It's just we just wanted to something that was sort of like flow with the artwork, you know. So we haven't got a specific name for that guy yet. We should come up with one. We should have a competition who can come up with a name for the guy. Somebody said Jason Newsted once.
What did they say?
Jason. They said he looked like Jason Newsted, the guy from
Metallica.
Yeah, you know. But like off our album covers, like he's like you can sort of see him on Bury the Pain, but I was like, I don't think he does. But you know, that's the internet.
You guys are releasing the album through Listenable Records. How did you guys sign with
them? Actually, so Lauren, who's the main guy from Listenable, he came to see us before we'd done Bury the Pain. He came to see us in Belgium, and he was just like, oh, you know, I'm a big fan of you guys. So like, you know, as soon as you do a record, come and speak to me. And we spoke to a few different labels before we went with him, but he was just so enthusiastic and just so like easygoing. So we were like, yeah, that'll, you know, he's great, you know. And he literally he loves. He's a massive metal fan, and it's really nice to deal with people who like the music before they like the business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You guys are going to be heading out on the Headbangers Ball tour throughout Europe. Little interesting twist there. Your original singer, Chris Ashley, is going to fill in for Jay because Jay's having a baby. So how did that all come about?
Well, it was, we said yes to the Headbangers Ball thing, obviously about 9 months ago. And because we were like, we cancelled all the things for COVID. And so Jay rang me up and said, oh, I might have a problem with that, you know. I think Louise is pregnant. And I was like, okay. And we were all like, we don't want to cancel because we just cancel everything, you know, and everybody's canceling. So and it was him that just said, so why don't you ask Chris? Why don't you ask Chris Astley? And I was like, I don't think he'll do it. I don't think, you know, he's not done any gigs with us for ages. I don't think he's really interested. But you know, we reached out to him, went and had a meeting with him, and he was like, yeah, I'll do it. You know, one last sort of like throw of the dice. He's not interested in being in a band or coming back to music, but I think the idea of doing like a tour, it was like, yeah, that sounds all right. I'll go and do that. So it's kind of cool in a way. It's a shame that, you know, we've got a new album coming out, and you know, Jay's not going to be there. But it's one of the probably one of the last chances that people will get to see like the original 3/4 of the original sort of Shattered Existence Fruit Advantage lineup, you know. So yeah, and literally as soon as we went to rehearsal, I mean, he put his guitar in the loft when he finished about 8 years ago, and he just picked it up again, and he straight away he's fine, you know. He's just back into it, you know. So it's like muscle memory is just there from years of doing it, you know. So it's good. It's gonna be killer. We're really, you know, we're really looking forward to doing these shows. There's some, you know, some legends on there, you know, Violence and Whiplash and Artillery.
You ever play with those guys before?
No, never met them, and we're going to be sort of sharing things for the next 2 weeks, including tour buses, I think. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna know them by the end of the end of the tour anyway. So, but no, we never met them.
Have you guys ever made it over to the US?
No, and it's something that sticks in our throat because obviously we'd love to. It just the chance has never sort of arisen, really. You know, I think it's a financial thing for us, but hopefully, you never know, because there's plenty of things that go on now where it's like, you know, one-off sort of festivals and cruises and things like that, you know. So hopefully the chance will come up pretty soon. We're fingers crossed on that.
In 2019, you released Bury the Pain. That was the first album that singer Jay Walsh appeared on. How was he recruited into the band?
So Jay was he was a fan of the band beforehand, and I'd spoken to him at he came to watch us when Chris was still in the band, and his band were playing. He has another band called Bullriff Stampede, and his band were playing, and we were talking to him. And then when Chris packed it in, and we were looking for singers, because he wasn't actually a singer; he was a guitar player. And so I said to him, we're looking for a guitar player. Would you come and play guitar, and we'll try and find another separate singer, because it's an easier thing to find. It's hard to find people that can do both. And we spent quite a bit of time. So he was in the band for about a year while we were trying to find someone else, and we were auditioning people. And we just came to the end of our tether, and I just said to him, "You can't do it, can you?" And he was like, "I'll have a go." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I used to do it in such a band years ago, but I haven't done it for ages." So, and so he was right there under our nose, and we didn't know. And then he came back. He'd learnt like 4 songs, sang them at rehearsal, and it was like, right, yeah, you're the guy. You're in. Let's go ahead. So it was good. It took a while, but we were really lucky to find someone that could slot in so easily.
Do you think Bury the Pain got a fair shake since it was released right around the beginning of the pandemic?
Well, nothing was fair, was it, back then? So I can't really complain about it. But no, we didn't get a chance to sort of go out there and plug it. We did a handful of shows, but we didn't really get that much time with it. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it? Just pick yourself up and start again.
That's right. It's been about 30 years since you released your 1992 album Kin, which got mixed reviews looking back in a historical eye. Some people said that they didn't like the kind of change in the sound, but today it seems people are more accepting of the sound. Was the sound change influenced by your record label at the time?
It was influenced by all sorts of things, really. I don't remember if the record label really. I mean, they were always suggesting things to us, but I don't think we ever really listened to them. But it was a weird time for that style of music. Everybody was kind of sort of it was becoming almost like a dirty word, and everybody was like, "Oh no, we're not really a thrash metal band. We're such a thing, or we're whatever," and inventing little subgenres to sort of label themselves as. And it was kind of like we decided like we'll try and sort of like try this route, and we'll diversify a little bit, and it doesn't feel like it was the right thing to do now, for us. But at the time, it did. And hindsight's 2020, isn't it? We were just trying to keep sort of like survive really at the time. So we were just trying to try things, experiment with things, and there's some good stuff on that record. I do like some of it, but as I think it's not my favorite. It doesn't fit with the other records. I don't think.
Music on Vinyl just put out a vinyl version of it, and I think they only have like 5 copies left of what they pressed. So obviously people liked it, and I think maybe looking at it in a historical aspect, people are more drawn to it. I thought that it was pretty much the same as your regular work. It was just a little slower.
Yeah, it's maybe it's like it's not quite as in your face. It's not quite as sort of hard hitting. Maybe not that we're a totally super extreme metal band. I think if you really want to listen to sort of like really brutal, extreme, heavy music, you probably don't want to listen to XENTRIX. There's more like heavier bands than us. But if you're kind of like that sort of like blend of like thrash metal and our peculiar blend, should we say, then maybe give us a chance. We might be the band you like. But yeah, it's still I still listen to that album and still go, yeah, it's not my favorite.
Do you guys still throw the Ghostbusters cover into your set?
We don't. We stopped doing it not that long ago. We used to do it because people wanted to hear it, but we're trying to sort of like phase it out really. It was kind of meant to be like a light-hearted thing. At the time, lots of bands were doing that sort of like, don't take yourselves too seriously sort of thing. but it became like, you know, the only song that people knew that we did. So it was like, yeah, we have done other stuff, you know. So we kind of phase it out, and we'll see. You never know. We might throw it back in, but I can't see myself.
Well, you know, the franchise is refreshed again, so it might be worth putting in the set. But even, you know, you say about, you know, people are starting to get for that. But I mean, I think the music industry as a whole was guys covering other people's material. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, people were covering each other, 80s covering each other. Yeah, it stinks when you're an original band and you're trying to, you know, get your original stuff out there, but you know, maybe the cover gets their ear on you.
Yeah, I mean, we always we like doing cover versions. You know, when we've done the cover version on this one, and you know, we always sort of try and stick one in, but we always try and do our own take on it. You know, there's no point trying to do something exactly the same as, you know, how it was recorded. You're always trying to sort of like do it without murdering it. That's the do it differently enough so you don't murder the song. That's kind of our thing.
Do you have any other music projects you work on besides XENTRIX?
No. This takes up all the spare time I have, you know. I do other things. I have a video production company, so do videos, and started off wanting to do music videos. And I've done some for some smaller bands in the UK, and done some studio project stuff for Andy. So I did stuff for Accept, and spent a day with Megadeth. I see you've got a Megadeth thing. If you look on the United Abominations album, I get a thanks on that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What's the name of your production company?
We're called VizCon, but we sort of do all sorts of video stuff, you know. But we started off wanting to do music videos, but historically, you know, the bands are broke and there's no money in it, so we have to do other things as well to pay the bills.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, Christian. I want to thank you for coming and speaking with KNAC.com. The new album is 7 Words. It comes out on November 11th by XENTRIX on Listenable Records.